What is going on, you guys? It's your boy, the Cypher Cynic here, and we're back with episode 54 of the video game therapy series. It has been a while. It's been probably at least 2 weeks since I've even opened this world. I suppose I could say I've been busy or something, but that's kind of just a cop-out excuse. I mean, in reality, I just haven't felt inspired enough and had the the energy to do it. So I'm back today because I have a few spare hours and felt like it is a good use of my time. You know, I often say I just feel better, something that's cathartic about spitting your thoughts out to the void. But my list has been piling up, so here's let's get into some of the random stuff that I've talked about. One interesting thought that I saw somewhere was that the internet has obviously allowed for a speed of communication that has allowed us to kind of achieve the best information we've ever had to this point. I think in terms of human knowledge, we're at the forefront here. But I suppose if you're looking at the peak quality of information, we've certainly unearthed that, and we're able to share that quite easily, I think. So like the maximum has, in terms of information quality, has increased. Like we have the best quality information available. However, I think the average piece of information on the internet, I think, has gotten way worse for a number of reasons. But I'm not going to go into the reasons per se. But generally, I think the average has gotten worse. But yeah, the peak has gotten better. So I think what that really says is that I suppose it's worse for the median or the average person in terms of consuming internet information. But if you're able to, I suppose, curate and find the best information we have, it's better for them. So I think the informed internet user has access to better information than they've ever had before. However, the median or average consumer is subjected to the diminishing quality that I think is pervasive on all internet forums and mediums and whatnot. But yeah, of course, I would love to position myself at some mightily location on this quality and curation axis. But I mean, in many ways, I think it really depends on what context we're looking at. I'm sure, and there's a lot of contexts in which I'm no different than your median consumer, and is subject to this decrease in quality of median information that other people are. But I don't know. I like to think in technology developments, I might have be a better curator than most. So I may be getting better information there. At least I feel like I am. But again, that doesn't really mean much. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting take. I think because I think people that kind of give any sentiments of anti-technology are well, what about this medical development, or what about this wonderful piece of content or something that they're peddling. But I think they're just looking at the best of the best. And I agree, the best of the best has gotten better, and will continue to do so. But however, the average piece of information is to this point so crappy. The average piece of content, really, not even information. I think that can get confusing. But the average piece of content is so shitty. Does it even warrant the rest? That was kind of my initial logic against I remember it was probably 10 years ago at this point when I deleted iFunny, because remember I had iFunny for a long time, and I remember because I always liked the best of the best memes I found on iFunny were elite. They were S tier memes. However, the percentage of those just got to be so low that I was looking at so many shitty memes, and I just don't think that 0.01% of meme quality I was getting made up for the extra hundreds and hundreds of swipes I would have to do to find it. So I don't know, it just doesn't justify it anymore. And that's why I kind of moved away from these auto like any content that's peddling the curation of content of any kind, right? Because iFunny is like, we're curating memes for you to show you the best memes. I think any content curators their incentive structure is so much different than it's different from their users, right? The platform's incentive structure is so much different than their users. So, for example, even YouTube as a curation platform, the incentive behind YouTube is a business. It exists to make money, and it doesn't make money by like showing the user more quality videos. It makes money by keeping them on the platform. And now, again, there's not an exact correlation there. I hope that's obvious. But it's whatever was going to keep you watching longer. It's not necessarily that they're trying to get you to learn something or to be better in any way. It's simply whatever keep you on the platform longer. Now, in some scenarios, maybe, if for some reason you engage to an extreme extent, all videos that are, overly educational or good that you engage with, then it might not be as bad. But even so, you don't ever learn anything by watching a video, right? You always learn something by watching a video, then doing something with that, right? The video itself isn't going to teach you anything, right? If anything, it'll just give you, some one-liner you can spit off to try and win an argument of some kind. But that is not that's not knowledge, really. That's just, again, it's a one-liner that you pulled from somebody. But it's very different than actually learning something. I don't think hearing anything teaches you anything. I think only doing something is going to really learn by doing at the end of the day. And I suppose what doing means, varies a little bit by context. But generally speaking, you watching a video on anything, any number of videos, even if you watch 1,000 videos, you ultimately don't learn anything until you start. You don't learn anything meaningful until you start actually doing anything with it. So, I don't know. Because I think if you just watch, 1,000 Python videos, and yeah, you might pick up some Python nomenclature, right? Or maybe you can write like a Hello World script or something, but you're ultimately never going to learn nearly as much as you would if you had just started building something in Python, right? That's it's going to teach you way more than, just watching another video. So I don't know. It's kind of my beef with a lot of that, but yeah, I think the average quality of information is decreasing, or the median chunk of content online is garbage. So including this one, this probably falls in the median. So yeah, you're welcome if you're consuming this, then you are part of the problem. But anyway, I suppose on the topic of information, I heard another term that I liked. Somebody referred to, I guess, all these this kind of world of engagement and content as information obesity, and I thought it was just kind of funny. It was an elegant way of putting this gluttonous mode of media consumption we've come across, and I don't know, coining it as information obesity is fitting, I think, and nothing more. I just liked the way that was phrased. I thought that was funny. But it does feel like information obesity, and there really is no end to any of it. And it's, I just don't think it's healthy. I think anything you could refer to as being obese is probably not a healthy thing. And I think there's a reason that verbiage spoke to me more than, information overload or, whatever, or, infotainment, or there's other terms and things that describe the phenomena, but information obesity, I think, was particularly apt in defining and capturing the emotion of it. But that's the fickle thing of language. It's not even, it all means the same stuff, but this was ultimately what spoke to me more than other terms and things I've heard. But I don't know, I thought it was interesting, or at least fitting. Not really interesting, but I guess it is interesting in the sense that it's fitting. But anyway, yeah, information obesity. It's just everyone just gorging on themselves, and I don't know. It doesn't. I suppose the other thing that was on the same blog article that I found that term on was that they're making an argument about technology not. Technology has never made, the claims of technology at every juncture has always been, it would make our lives easier, and while that may always feel like it's true, our lives have gotten easier, but it doesn't necessarily. I don't know. The way that it was outlined, it seems pretty interesting. The perspective that this author shared on this. He said it just makes things faster. It doesn't make it any easier; it just makes it faster. So, for example, when people were, I don't know, they used to like have to do laundry. They felt like the washing machine was going to be like this like ultimate time saver. People were going to like have so much extra leisure time because they don't have to spend 5 hours washing clothes. They just stuff it in this machine and they're done. But and yeah, while the washing machine saves you time from having to do it manually, that time's ultimately then just filled with something else, right? Gives you more time to work on other stuff. And while the assembly line jobs were automated by robots, quote unquote making our lives easier, you ultimately have other work that is to be done now. And now instead of each car taking however long it is, it's it's faster than it's ever been. And same with I'm sure we're washing more clothes now than we ever washed before. So the that speed argument really I don't know, it seems apt, and it seems like it is accurate to what what we see. And I think the same with AI. Like we look at developments in AI and think, oh, no one's gonna ever do this like menial work ever again. And like, what do you think it's gonna result in us having more leisure time? Like, I think you're crazy if you think that that AI developments will all of a sudden give everybody, everyone's going to be working like an hour a week or something like that. No, you're just going to be doing other stuff now. Like they're just going to fill it more with more stuff. And the whole cycle of, whatever you do now is just going to be on a faster scale, right? Whereas it used to take a couple hours to walk along the dirt path to get to the marketplace to buy your food or something. Now you just, Amazon Fresh it in or whatever. And you have all your food there, and then, but you're still working. You're still at your laptop doing some other BS now than you were. It's not like you spend infinitely more time and leisure than people 100 years ago did. And of course, I'm not speaking this as a overarching like rule. Like I'm sure there's people that do way less than our ancestors did, but most people that have regular jobs are still. They wouldn't argue that these technologies used every day are freeing up so much of their time, right? Otherwise, they would have a bunch more time, right? And the whole excuse of, I never have time. That's like the number one. That's the only excuse that I hear that excuse all the time. And I made a personal agreement with myself to try and never use that as an excuse. Like, I don't have time, because that's not true. If I ever say that, it's not true. I have the time. The issue is it's either not a priority, or that's it. It's just not a priority. So it's not that I don't have time. It's just not a priority. So if it's like, why don't I could pick any stupid thing I could be doing, and I say, no, I just don't have quite the time. It's just because that is not a high priority for me. I don't want to do that. Which I think is a much more clear explanation of why you're not doing something than just, I'm too busy. I don't have time. It's never too busy, right? It's always a matter of it's not a priority for me. Right? You'll find the time if it's a priority. So I don't know. I've tried to never use I don't have time. If I do use it on you, it's probably because I don't like whatever it is you're proposing, or I just don't want to do whatever you want me to do. So I can just say I don't have time. And it's a cop-out excuse. No one has any time to do anything, but it's what it really means is just that it's not a priority, which is fine. But yeah, now I think more than ever, people just feel like they don't have any time. They feel like their lives are moving so fast. And, and I like in a lot of ways that, I agree that life feels like it moves really fast, but, I think part of what's to blame is the rate at which technology is automating and changing things. Right. So now we have, I'm sure we'll have new jobs in the future that are, do things at even faster levels, and everything's so, even this just cycle of, production and consumption that we have, will just be sped up, right? We'll just be spending more money than we ever have, and producing more stuff than we ever have. And I just don't think that ends well, and maybe not in our lifetime or in 100 years, but I think at some point the unsustainable graph of production and consumption will hit the fan, and it's not. We can't just keep parading around progress forever, right? Because progress kind of has to has to level off. We have to hit some. When is it ever going to be enough? And if it's never enough, then I think that's part of the problem. Is that we have this idea that nothing's ever enough. Isn't that kind of a dangerous mentality? It's never enough. It's never enough. It's always more. Always more. And especially if we're after some kind of satisfaction, always more is a horrible way to go about trying to be satisfied with your life. Gratitude is like the first thing on the list for not being such a miserable sack of shit. So always more as a mentality for progress among all else is I don't know, it feeds right into that. I think it's dangerous. So at some point, I feel like society we don't need more. We need less. We need to be smarter about what we're doing, or at least not grow, not do everything so quickly. I don't know. And that's totally an unpopular opinion. And the example that I feel like is thrown around a lot with like progress always is not always a good thing. Is like, oh, well, these medical, there's preventable diseases that we've cured only because of this. Every time I say that, I feel like there should be some end to progress, or growth at all costs is a dangerous mentality. Or another quote is like, growth is the ideology of the cancer cell. Like growth at all costs is the ideology of the cancer cell, and that's very much our mentality as a at least economically as a Western country. I get paraded with this. Oh, there's preventable diseases now that we have, and we couldn't have treated those without all the modern technology developments. It's like, okay, but as many preventable diseases as we're solving with advanced curing techniques or whatever, we're killing ourselves. With like the whole obesity problem, that is easily preventable, and we're actually making it worse. More people are dying from that than anything else. So if it's all about saving the maximum number of lives, which I don't agree with a utilitarian view on this, by the way. I'm not a utilitarian. I think it's a, fundamentally flawed viewpoint. But it's, for any, I would reason to believe that the number of preventable diseases we are preventing with more advanced technology, we are creating even more so with, even like disease, deaths caused by, mental anguish nowadays. How many is that, right? And it's only going to get more as people get more and more miserable in their lives, and suicide rates are going to skyrocket. And those are, I'm not saying those were preventable if we just all lived in the woods or something, but a lot of what we're doing now is not. Even if you take a utilitarian view on things, it doesn't. It's just one further step abstracted. So it's not even that you're saving more lives because we found some cure to malaria or something. You're not just finding one. You're not. The person is not death is not responsible directly from malaria. That's right. They're dead. They're dead because of, I don't know, 20 years of mental anguish or obesity. They ate themselves to death or something, which is just that's where like, oh, we need better obesity treatments. It's like, okay, well, we can keep going down this forever, but ultimately we're creating more problems than we're solving with a lot of this. And so that's just like, I guess, the medical view of things. But I think it is especially, the argument is easier for me in any other domain, aka not medical, because it's the hardest argument against progress at all progress cost is the medicine argument, which that's why I kind of brought it up. But every other argument I think is a lot easier for me to sidestep and point that it's not a healthy or sustainable way of doing things. And even with just like money, like I think people look at investments and they want these stock investment tips and whatever, with the goal being to make a bunch of money, and then money comes security, and security becomes happiness or something. I don't know. I think all of it is kind of a broken ideology, right? Thinking that some amount of security or money is going to bring you life satisfaction. It just doesn't come from that. I refuse to believe that your life's work and life satisfaction comes from amassing a certain number of money, or some metric like that is ultimately just a vanity metric. It's not, and it's not even sustainable either. Like, I don't think if we expect to see the same growth over the last 100 years and we saw over the last 100 years, in the next 100 years, I would be, gravely concerned for what a society like that looks like. I just envision everyone's strapped with AR goggles around, and everybody's, spending most of their paycheck on, antidepressants or something to, because ultimately that's, we see this already. People are not happier with more technology. And I'm sure people who had brain cancer or something might live longer now that we have more technology, but still most people, especially in the Western world, are not happier, right? There's tribes who think the world's flat or something. They're having better lives, if you really, in terms of their own satisfaction than we are. Now, if you look, well, they don't have any money. I have an Apple TV, and who cares, right? I'm not talking about that. You have to abstract some material goods and material success with actual, like, internal happiness, right? And yeah, sure, they don't know what science is, or they don't know that other planets exist, this tribe, but ultimately they have fulfilling lives, more so than we do. They're not, you don't see, whatever percentage of, their tribe jumping off of cliffs to kill themselves every week. And I don't know, that's kind of the first place that my mind goes when people are talking about, how many lives are saved, or even just like, I don't know, some terrorist kills 100 people. I think, that's sad. 100 people today died, and, whatever. I don't mean to say whatever is dismissive of it, but, it's 100 people. I just think, okay, I think how many people are dying every day, killing themselves, wanting to die. They're like, I wish that was me that got blown up by the terrorist. And oftentimes the number is much larger. So suicide is killing more people than these terrorists are. And again, the reported suicide metric, I think, is also a faulty number, because suicide, whether it's just by gunshot to yourself or, pills or something, or jumping off a building, some of that just plays like that's just like the last event in the arc of suicide. Some people's suicide is, 40 years of overeating, or, kind of a, it's a slow death, right? It's not even that they don't, they don't care what happens to them, so they just kind of fall apart slowly, and maybe they die of something normal, but it's ultimately like their life was kind of sacrificed and gave up on long before they actually died. And I don't know, a lot of it comes from this feeling of hopelessness that's more and more prevalent, I suppose, today than it ever has been. So I don't know. So okay, so I'm here talking about all this gloomy stuff. So what's the solution? Of course, we're always solution seeking here, and not thinking deeper about I think thinking deeply about the problem is often the best way. That's a solution, right? I think it can be a mistake just to go quickly into what the solutions are, and we just need better drugs, like more effective antidepressant drugs. It's like, I don't think that's not going to solve the underlying problem, right? Soon enough we're all going to be on that, whatever that drug was from that one movie that I never watched, but I don't know what the orange something, a Clockwork Orange, I'm not sure. Either way, that, like, stronger drugs is not the solution. Okay, and it's not, probably it's not some mental health app. Like the number of like these little, they're trying to use technology to solve these big problems. Like, I want to see one person that has legitimately had their life turned around by, going on some kind of stupid app. Like, I just don't think that works at any kind of scale. And I think the solution to this problem is not one that will be scalable or a business, business friendly venture. It just won't be like that. I refuse to believe that there's going to be some perfect social media app or something, or some, daily routine app that's going to solve everyone's problems. And if it does, I'd be shocked. I hope I'm wrong, but an app is not the answer. These are deep psychological problems. Some app or some AI bot is telling me that I need to, brush my teeth and go for a walk probably gives me more reason to, think about it. What am I looking at here? I'm some ChatGPT reskin is telling me about 10 daily habits I could be doing to make myself happier. It's like, what a ridiculous, like, what am I looking at? This is not the solution to it. The solution is not scalable. Solution, is a, in one way might just be a community. That's why these tribesmen are live fulfilling lives. Is they're in their social circles that they're designed for. I think humans, I think the ideal group size for humans is from like 50 to 150 people, right? And now we're these group sizes that the apps are in the millions and billions. So unless you were able to emulate the this kind of small group and your importance to a small tribe with AI technology, I suppose, then you're not really going to be able to emulate that community that I think is the underlying reason why we're seeing so much problems. So I don't know. There's a lot more reasons. There's a lot more. It's a multifaceted issue. So I suppose I'm being reductive and framing it as like the death of a community, the death of the family, or the death of interpersonal relations as the cause for this epidemic of loneliness. But that's ultimately just one. These are just individual factors, and there's many more confounding variables. But I think the thing I do want to conclude with this is that the answer is not some app, right? The answer is probably not some scalable solution that some enterprise is going to sell me. The answer is not better drugs either. That's not that. Surely is not the answer, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the answer is just a drug that everyone takes in the morning and everybody's happy and buying stuff and working, increasingly more menial and useless jobs as technology speeds up our lives. And, now we're okay with it now because we're on some drug. I don't know. I'll move on to the next thing. That's pretty bleak, So sorry if you were in a good mood. I suppose if you were, I just did my best to pull you out of it. But anyway. Now that I guess while I'm still on this topic, I guess this was more relevant to the information obesity part, but I think my greater philosophy with content that I'd like to share is a push versus pull, right? I think modern platforms push content to their users. So when you're on the homepage of YouTube, that content is, whatever's there is pushed to you. They decide what's on there. They decide what's best based off of their, machine learning algorithms, and they push to you the content that you want. And I know this is very dangerous. I'm not going to go into the details of why the push philosophy of content is bad, but I think the better form of content consumption, if at all, I think less is better anyway. I think the percentage we're doing it is far too great, but there's certainly a non-zero amount that I think is good, or is at least not, or is benign. I'm not going to say good, but it's benign. But the better philosophy is a pull, and this is where you decide what you want to see when you want to see it, and it's not that you're not being pushed content, which you still have the illusion of choice, right? You can kind of choose which thumbnail to click on, but ultimately, the thumbnails you're seeing in the first place aren't decided by you, right? Whereas a pull style content is you decide what you're looking at. So I guess the way I've done this, just to describe my configuration with this, is I don't go to youtube.com anymore. I haven't blocked it or anything. I just don't go on it. I have an RSS reader with YouTube channels that I want to know when they post something, and whenever they do post something, it updates my RSS feeder when I pull in the content, and then I watch it with MPV on the command line. MPV is just like a video viewer thing. And I open the command terminal, use MPV, and I only allow myself to watch YouTube videos that way. And I only do it via getting the link from my RSS reader. So it's kind of a neat rabbit hole to go down, especially if you're, I guess, trying to move away from, the push style content where you go to some stupid platform and they push their content on you, and whatever you see, you have no control over it. But if you're looking to do it in a more sustainable and in my view, a healthier way, the pull style content I think is better. That philosophy is what I don't know. I think is better. So that's one configuration, is to have an RSS reader. I use Thunderbird. Thunderbird's nice, but Newsboat I've heard is good, and there's a bunch of them out there that are all nice. And then I use MPV to actually watch the videos. You also need YouTube DL, which is like, think it was banned, so you have to find the software somewhere. But if you look hard enough, you can find it. But yeah, YouTube did not like YouTube DL, which is just basically a way for you to download YouTube videos, and it's what allows MTV to actually work. But I found a version somewhere. There's some GitLab repository that I could clone and compile, and then I just use that to watch YouTube from the command line. So because I suppose not watching any YouTube is also just a better option probably, but it's not really realistic for a lot of people now that's been their drug for some time now. And for me, it's I don't even know when I started watching YouTube videos, but it was a long time ago. But at least now I'm pulling instead of getting content pushed to me, and I'm trying to make my own content as a part of an excuse why it's okay for me to watch them. Kind of balancing it out. And I've spoke before already about my produce versus consume mentality, and I think as long as I'm producing a decent amount of content and trying to at least be wary of my intake through whatever methods I've designed here, I think it's better than it's a step in the right direction. It's not perfect, it never will be, but it's certainly better. I think I prefer it that way for me, but I don't know. So some of this is also just my own little projects and tinkerings with technology that I think is interesting, at least. So anyway, yeah. So something else I think is what was interesting. I was thinking more about money. Money. Everyone loves money. But I think at a certain point, and someone else said this, and and it was someone who was rich, but he said, well, he wasn't really rich, I suppose, but he worked as like a private equity person. So he would talk to these billionaire people, and was his job was to make them richer on their investments and stuff, and it was refreshing to hear him say this. He was he's like his mid 40s or something like that, but he's like, well, something I realized, I was in the financial industry for 20 years. These people that have all this money, they're not any happier than the people who don't have the money. And I've been saying this forever, so it's I think it's easier for me to say this now because I don't have any money, and they can say, oh, you're coping, you don't have any, just because you don't have any. The moment you have money, you'll think it's more important to have it or something. But this guy who had made a fine career for himself and had spent most of his time talking to people who are billionaires, again came to the same conclusion I did, where it's not clearly that amount of money might even do more to detract from your happiness than not having it would. So I think at a certain point, and I think this is probably a lot less than people might think, but I think the money starts to own you more than you own money, right? So if you have, let's say you have $1 million, how much of that, what's the threshold for when the money starts owning you instead of you owning the money? Money you own, I think, is different than money that is owning you. That you're a burden to. You're spending time managing your money, and you're, I think everyone wants to have money, but no one wants to manage it. That's why we have these big firms that are responsible for managing people's money, but they ultimately can't. You can't relinquish entire control of your money, but still own it, right? So instead you have to contract, the management of your money out to somebody else, with I guess the hope and the trust that they're not, they keep it as your money kind of thing. And they can use it for whatever they want as long as they give it back at some point. But even that, I think this whole premise, right, is just a very, very, very convoluted and abstracted way of, security, feeling secure with your, the money that you have. And it ultimately is never enough. I mean, like I said, you can look at old interviews of people who are now billionaires, and they talked about, I just want to make a little bit of money might be nice. I can afford dinner or whatnot. Because they're always poor in these early videos or something. And then now they are some mega billionaire, but they're still they're so beholden to what their money is tied up in. In this case, their money's probably tied up in these company stocks that they're the idea that they have to continue providing returns for their investors owns them, and they don't actually get any of this this freedom and this power that they want. They're so busy having to manage their money through managing their business that they have, or talking to their investors or whatever. They have lost sight of everything, right? Their money owns them. So I think the ultimate goal of any of it is to be free. And again, I don't like using the word free because it seems very redneck at a picnic type word. But ultimately, I think it's the right word. Libre or free, whatever. I think that's the ultimate goal, is to have that. And I think people can get so fixated thinking that, oh, if I just have more money, if I have a higher salary, like all of that will, I'll be free. And it's like, no, you won't. No, the high salary often comes with less freedom than just being broke and, actually just being free, right? It's not often, I don't think people, think about, at least deeply very much, about what the amount of money it is that would actually allow them to be free. I don't think it's very much, right? I think some of it is people are fooled into spending their money on stupid shit. Advertising by itself is a $1 trillion industry or something like that. Probably more than that, I suppose, what you count as an advertisement. But they're fooled into buying all this shit, and then they're like, "Oh, well, I need $200,000 in order to truly be free." It's like, no. First of all, most of the stuff that you need that much money for is bullshit, right? You don't need this huge, enormous place to live. Like you're not gonna. It's not gonna make any difference if you live in a closet versus you live in this giant fucking place. You'll still find shit to complain about. Like it's not gonna matter. And yeah, I'm sure you can complain about something that's more trivial, but I'd rather complain about something that's notably non-trivial than something that is blatantly trivial and just accepting it either way. So I don't know. And then people, like, what they're eating is just exorbitant in comparison to what they'd actually need. Like, I think the calories per dollar is something in, some absurd range where I don't even know how you justify spending that much money on the food in the first place. And there's no way it's any better than, certainly not any healthier than food that you could buy cheaper. And again, there's some nuance there. It's not like it's black and white, but certainly not, $4,000 on food every month or something ridiculous. I just don't think it's that much money for people to be free. I think they're chasing this idea of, oh, once I get to this number, I'll be free, but it's not. It never is that, right? And no amount of security will help them. That's the other thing I think is an illusion, is this, people are very, very fixated and interested in being secure and not having to worry about, for financially secure, right? I think financial security is kind of an elusive idea, right? Because what does that mean, right? Are you ever really financially secure? And what threshold is that, right? Is it having 20K in the bank? Is it, whatever? Ultimately, generally you will, with rare exception, most people have no idea what that actual threshold is, and their threshold changes every time they get to the other one. So it's kind of a never-ending treadmill of, what is financial security? I want to have a house, and okay, I need 2 houses. I need retirement. It's like, no, you're always going to need that shit. And ultimately, like if something comes up, like you're not going to be able to predict, if you get some ridiculous medical thing, right? And no amount of, money stowed away is going to, is ever, like, I guess theoretically, out of reach from being swallowed up by some ridiculous bill or something that happens, right? You could have, you could live in the middle of Kansas or something, and then, a tornado comes and wipes out everything, right? And they'd wipe out your bank, so you don't have your bank anymore. Like, you could lose everything, and it'd be totally not your fault, and there's no amount of money that would have saved you. I guess unless you had it tied up in cryptocurrency or something like that you could, get out later. But I don't know. People are so worried about, being secure, and worrying about if all this, if XYZ happens, if they're gonna have enough money to live, and and that's just, none of these things. These are all. I mean, it's crazy. I think it's kind of a conspiracy on themselves, to the extent that they are, worried about things that could go wrong, and ultimately, I think it's just not worth the amount of stress that people put into it. You're better off just trying to cherish what you have, and to, I don't know, worry more about yourself than worried about your finances, right? Because those are two different things, right? You and your financial situation are different ideas. Unless you just tie yourself to your financial situation, unless your well-being is so wrapped up in how much money you have, then that's a bigger problem. I think that is the problem itself. It's not that you don't have enough money; it's that your entire well-being is wrapped up in how much money you have. And I'm obviously saying this from a position of having no money and not really caring that I don't have any money. And that it's fine. I would like to believe, and I guess I'll find out, hopefully at some point, unless I never make any money at all, that my financial well-being is not tied at all to my well-being. I think, so even if I was making $1 million right now, would my life change that much? Maybe for like a month, maybe for a month, I'd be like, ooh, this is cool. I'm going to go, buy something for, myself or somebody else. But I think, it wouldn't take long for me to just get used to this, and I'm going to be the same person, the same, I don't know. I guess money kind of changes people, but, and it never changes them in a good way. You don't see people who win the lottery and then all of a sudden are like, they normally just fuck it all up or something. They're not often better people after they have amassed a bunch of money. If anything, it just does more to corrupt them. So I'm happy I don't have any money. That's fine. I don't care. And I'm not really in strong pursuit of having a bunch of money either. I don't think it's a healthy goal. I think it gets fickle. I think your financial stability is compromisable at any point in time by any number of factors that are infinitely out of your control. And it's also kind of a vanity metric after a very, very short period, right? I think I got I don't really get fired up, but somebody somewhere, I don't even know who, I can't really quote these people directly, and even if I could, I don't want to. But they were like, well, working out is just a vanity metric, right? You're only working out so you look good, and you can just feel better about yourself, and then what he went on to presume is like, but financial security is always something you can invest in. Investing in yourself financially is always a good choice. It's like, do you not see how blinding of an idea that you just proposed there? You said that working out is kind of is foolish because it's selfish, and you're only after yourself, and your physical body will deteriorate with age, so there's no point in maintaining it, which by itself is a completely brain dead take. I'm obviously very pro exercise and being in good shape because in my view, it's probably the best use of your time that there is, right? Most productive thing you can do all day is go exercise. But the idea that all of a sudden, the money part of it is the important part to be focusing on. It's not a vanity metric. Is blasphemous to think that finances are less of a vanity metric than lifting and working out. So I don't know. And plus, like I said this before, but selfishness in and of itself is not. It's like often seen as this like automatically negative trait, but again, like where do you draw the line? Like eating food you putting food in your mouth is selfish because in some way because someone else could be eating that. It's like, well, I'm hungry. It's like, okay, well, this isn't about you, Mr. Selfish Man. So give the food away, give it to someone who needs it. It's like, okay, well, what if I need it? It never ends. Okay, at some point you have to like be selfish, in whatever way that you don't like that to mean, because it's you're a biological creature. You have to look out for your own needs at some level. But to think that you maintaining your physical body is some for fighting against aging or whatever it is somehow a selfish act, but then making money isn't is hilarious to me. But I don't know, at some point it's selfish that I work out to look better and to be stronger and be in better shape. But like, what am I supposed to? You can't always selflessness is as a ruling decision maker it will lead you down a rabbit hole of like personal misery that you can't ever come out of. Right? You give away all your stuff all the time. You never have anything. Give away all your food all the time. You can't ever eat anything. You're just gonna die. Like there's no level. So okay, then you have to start drawing lines. Okay, well then I'm not gonna give away all my food. I'll give away 80% of my food. It's okay. Well then what if you could live on less? It's like, okay, well then what about you maximizing the time you're alive by giving away the only food you need to survive? It's okay. Well, you could live for 20 years longer and give away more of your food if you took care of yourself and actually lived and exercised and ate high protein diet and drank water and stuff. But no, you have to like give that so it doesn't. I think it's a really stupid argument to think that you can't ever do anything that's selfish. So no, go lift, go look good, and think about this. Would I rather, be a blob, or would I rather be in great shape? There's no scenario in which I would rather be a blob than to be in the best shape I could be in. There's no reason for me to ever be in bad shape. The only reason I'm in bad shape would be that I let myself go, and it's my fault, and I'll be working to get back in good shape. But there's no advantage to being in crappy shape, right? Or the argument would be like, oh, then you could spend that time working on, your intelligence and being, psychologically more, strong. It's like, isn't that also a vanity metric, right? Why steal all the knowledge for yourself? That's a little selfish. Why not sharing the knowledge? Isn't that, whatever it is. And plus, like, my body, if I get myself in good shape, it's going to stay that way for a little bit until I screw it up. But, I read some blog article about, I don't know, knowledge, whatever this knowledge is, that is apparently a better use of my time than working out. I'm going to forget that quickly, like within 5 minutes. I'm not going to remember any of it. And, our memories aren't this impeccable. We don't have computer memory. Our memories suck. Like, human memory is terrible. It's not a good thing. It's random. It's like faulty. I can make up memories all the time. It's not a, people, do it all the time. They have terrible memories. But, all of a sudden, this intellectual pursuits is better than everything else. That's the thing that really pisses me off about a lot of academics is they parade around with this knowledge and this and that. They don't realize that, okay, the human brain is computationally hilarious in comparison to even just a shitty computer, right? Like the memory that of course we have some advantages with critical thinking, but computing power alone, like the worst laptops of our day now are better than any single mind. We've seen that even just with LLMs here just in the last couple months. And you can run on pretty crappy hardware. You can run, I don't know, a billion parameter, 2 billion parameter model that will be more knowledgeable about a variety of topics than any single human ever. And yet these academics run around like they're, they know everything, but then they're not concerned at all with anything below their neck, right? So you look at them and you're like, this person looks like a potato or a pear. And it's like, why would you go through all the effort of, getting a PhD to be well respected, even though that, like I said, your intelligence is laughable in comparison to a computer's, but then you look like that. Like, are you serious? Look better than that. I mean, if you want people to trust you, I feel like you'd want to look like, you didn't just roll out of a donut shop. Again, this is totally inappropriate and not nice, but I just don't. I have little patience for that, and this is where I kind of draw the line. Is that I think it's, if you're not at least in some way focused on the way you look and the way your body moves, I think it's a mistake. Right? You're only going to think better if you feel better and can move around and can touch your toes and can jog and can jump and can throw something, right? Like if you can't move around, you're just immobile, jammed behind a computer desk. I don't care how, there's no way that you'd be more efficient at spitting out, whatever algorithms you work so hard to memorize than you would if you were in good shape. I'm not saying that, obviously I'm not saying there's a one-to-one correlation, but, especially if you have, the advantage of this, lucrative, high money-making career, but then, you spend no time outside of, making all the money for what, right? You're going to live longer because you've made all this money. It's like, no, you can't buy time on Earth. I mean, I guess indirectly you might be able to a little bit, but then you're just betting on, medical technology to save your lazy ass because you don't want to get to the gym. So that's also just kind of a loser way to look at it. Is that, you're just going to be a blob. So I don't know. It frustrates me to no end that people that, especially ones that tout off their intelligence and things, spend no time. They think that it's a separate idea that to be physically active and to look good, or all of a sudden that just because you are a meathead, you're all of a sudden some moron. And I hate that I even would consider myself a meathead, but in comparison to some of the people that are around me, I am probably a fucking meathead, which I think should not be the case. I think I should have. I should be the median or an average amongst my peers in terms of my physical appearance. And now, I suppose with height, I might be above average, but even then, that has nothing to do with, being strong and limber and in good shape. You can be, 5'1" and still be in, great shape. But I don't see any of that. I see people who are either in great shape and, don't know anything, or if they do know anything, they look like a pear, which again is actually supposed to be an insult. So I'm not going to say no insult. It's an insult, and I hope you take that personally. And you go to the gym, and I'll see you there. So, I don't know. Total, fat phobic rant there, but I'm sorry. It's, it's out there now. Too late. Whatever. If you have a problem with it, leave a comment. I don't know. I'll happily arm wrestle anyone who comments and has a problem with it. Because chances are I could probably beat you in an arm wrestling contest, or I could just beat the shit out of you. And if I don't, then you're right. You're intellectually and physically superior to me, so you win. Anyway, I'll take my chances on the 6 people that watch my videos. But anyway, thanks for watching. Peace out, and I will see you next time.